It was announced at this year's San Diego Comic-Con that Ben 10 would be getting a new comic book series from publisher Dynamite Comics. This is the first new piece of Ben 10 media since the reboot's cancellation in 2021, so fans are very excited to say the least. But in addition to excitement, there's a lot of speculation going around, as the publisher was the only thing announced about the new book. We don't know who will be writing it, drawing it, or editing it. We don't even know if this will be a continuation of the original continuity, a new continuity, or something in the middle, like a book that continues the adventures of Ben from the original series while ignoring UAF and Omniverse. So, in all the speculation, I figured I'd make my pitch for what I'd want out of a new Ben 10 series. So without further ado, this is my pitch for the brand new Ben 10. First of all, what continuity is this in? Ben 10 fans have been begging for a continuation of the original series since it ended in 2014, almost an entire decade ago. Wow. Being one of those fans myself, I hope that this is the direction they go in, but I would understand if they did differently, be that with a new continuity unshackled by prior lore, or with something that banks more off the massive popularity of that initial series. All that being said, my pitch will be a continuation of the original series. So if we're picking back up in the original continuity, what are we doing to further that version of Ben and his supporting cast? What direction are we taking these iterations of the characters in? I'd like it to get a bit more mature. And no, that doesn't mean Ben's gonna start committing fatalities with his aliens and yelling fuck all the time. I mean more mature in that the stories and the characters should be taken a little bit more seriously and given a level of emotional depth. I don't want to suck the fun out of the series, it should still feel fun and generally upbeat, but I want actions to have more weight and consequences to them. It's why people are such big fans of those first 2 seasons of Alien Force. You can see the characters and tones maturing with the audience. I'd want to do something along the lines of your average DC or Marvel book, or in terms of animation, something like X-Men 97. Just, a little bit lighter in certain regards. So we've got a more mature story, set in the original continuity. What does that look like from me? Issue 1. We see Sunder in his ship as he receives a communication. It doesn't have to be Sunder for the sake of this plot, it can really be just about any of the many bounty hunters in Ben 10. Maybe someone like Crab, who can harken back to the original series of Ben 10 while giving Crab some more screen time. That guy really didn't show up at all, despite looking so cool. But yeah, it can basically be any bounty hunter. I'm just using Sunder for this, but, pick out whatever bounty hunter you want. Comment which bounty hunter you want to be in the story. He assures his client that he knows what he's doing. His mysterious client asks if he'll be able to handle Tennyson. Sunder chuckles, telling him, "Of course I can. I know his worst weakness, after all." We then cut to a crowd of humans protesting the construction of Overtown in what used to be La Soledad. The humans grow violent, breaking through barriers meant to keep them out and swarming security. Suddenly, the proto-truck flies overhead. Out of it drops Gwen Tennyson as Lucky Girl, Kevin Levin, and Rook Blanco. The 3 work on pushing back the crowd and helping out injured aliens. A few humans slip around them and start attacking the 3. Kevin notes that this would be a lot easier if Ben were there to help. Rook retorts by saying that he knows as well as him that Ben faces one of his greatest challenges yet at this very moment. We then see an 18-year-old Ben setting shotgun in the rust bucket with Grandpa Max as he finishes a smoothie, completely unbothered. Max takes note of this and asks Ben if he's at all nervous. Ben laughs, telling him that he's faced tougher challenges since he was 10, but Max then points out that he's not 10 anymore, that he's an adult, and that comes with a slew of new responsibilities that he's yet to really take. Ben grows a bit more serious, saying that he recognizes that him and Rook's year-long galactic road trip taught him a lot about life, particularly that he's hardly even started it. He knows he needs to figure out his future, but he's just not sure what to do with stuff like this happening all the time. Max tells him that he understands, that his time as a plumber often came into odds with his life and his family, and that's a tough balancing act. But he assures Ben that if anyone can do that better than he did it, it would be Ben. After all, he did have a 7-year head start compared to him. They then arrive at their ultimate destination, Capitol Hill. Meanwhile, the chaos in Overtown has passed. The protesters are taken in while Gwen, Kevin, and Rook help clean up. Kevin notes that they can't keep putting out fires as they show up. They need to get ahead of all these species riots all over America. Rook hopes that Ben's testimony today will help quell the strain of these human-alien relationships at the root of this. Gwen shares this sentiment, but knows that it won't end there. Someone tells Gwen that she's right, as they all look over to see a woman standing behind them. She says that her husband was one of the arrested protesters. She tells them that he and all the others were organized by some weird group online, one that wanted the protests to turn violent. She gives them the address of a building where the group met with the people a few days before the protest. Back at Capitol Hill, a panel of senators makes opening remarks for a hearing on aliens in America. As I've been alluding to, the relationship between humans and extraterrestrials at this point is very strained. While there are plenty of harmless or even heroic aliens in the Ben 10 universe, people are scared of things like the incursions, the hybrid, Vilgax. Even more altruistic things like the plumbers have kind of shady tendencies and operate in the shadows and have kind of been lying to the American public for a long time. So things like that coming to light are really scaring people, and they don't know how to feel. And this whole panel has been assembled to come to some conclusion about what America's policy will be with extraterrestrials. With all this established, the panel opens the floor to Ben Tennyson. Ben makes a speech talking about how aliens aren't inherently bad, how for every Vilgax or Dagon, there are 100 aliens who want to help. He reflects on allies like Tetrax and Xylene who have mentored him, and remarks just how mutually beneficial an alliance between Earth and aliens could be. Back with the others, Kevin and Rook snoop through the files of this building they were told to investigate, while Gwen looks up this organization online. Gwen claims that the organization says that they're totally decentralized, but Kevin says that the building's security would disagree. Someone there has deep pockets. It's right about that moment that Rook discovers something in the financial records, saying that the building was bought by a Sir Archibald Winslow. It's at this moment that the building locks down and begins to fill with gas. The trio falls unconscious as a group of Forever Knights comes to retrieve them. In Congress, the panel thanks Ben for his testimony. They then say that all sides of the story must be heard, as they then take a statement from Will Harang. Harang, demutated by the Omnitrix years ago under threat of legal action, tears into Ben's testimony, saying that the few bad aliens that have encountered have the power to level cities, that you can't trust them, that we won't be safe around them. Ben rightfully points out that Harang is using a lot of very racist rhetoric, to which Harang says, it's not racist when they're not even a part of your species. Suddenly the roof blasts open as Sunder, or whichever bounty hunter you want it to be, hovers above everyone. Ben tells Sunder that now is really not a good time, but he'll take him anyways. Sunder laughs and tells Ben that he's not after him, but after Harang instead. He blasts a bolt of energy at his terrified target, but Ben tackles Harang to the ground just in time. Harang runs away, screaming about how the aliens are after him, as Ben stands up, pops up the Omnitrix dial, and slams it down, transforming into a brand new alien that we've never seen before. Now, I might say, Keenan, why using brand new alien? Why not use a classic one? Maybe he should use a classic one. I don't know, but I figured it'd be nice to see some new aliens pop up in this so we aren't just retreading old ground. What's this new alien like, you ask? I have no idea. I will leave that to people who are better at coming up with such things than I am. I would, however, say that I would like for it to be a fire alien, sort of following the tradition of Heat Blast, Swamp Fire, and Ultimate Swamp Fire having his first alien be a fire type one. Otherwise, it's whatever you want. Comment your fan-made fire alien below. Tell me what it's like. Ben engages the bounty hunter, telling him to give up, that they've done this so many times he knows how this will turn out. Sunder tells Ben that this time is different, because this time he realizes Ben's real weakness is people. Suddenly, Sunder blasts the roof over the panel of senders, causing a collapse. Ben dives into the way to save them and gets buried in the rubble. Back with the trio, they wake up next to each other, each of them strapped to a table with power dampeners on their forehead. They're approached by the titular Sir Winslow they just read about. He tells them that despite their extraterrestrial heritage, they were quite clever. Rook tells him that he's under arrest for the kidnapping, as well as his role in inciting riots across the country. Winslow laughs before turning to two Forever Knight doctors, telling them to start with the full-blooded alien. It's then that we realize that our heroes are being held in a Forever Knight surgical theater for dissection. Issue 2. Still in the form of his new alien, Ben holds up the rubble, keeping it off the senators. He makes sure they're all fine before adjusting the dial on the Omnitrix and transforming once again. This time he transforms into one of his established aliens, any one of his more bruiser-type aliens. 4 arms, diamond head, humongosaur, armadillo, etc. It's not terribly important, but for this case, let's just say it's diamond head. In this form, he blasts the rubble clear, freeing the senators and going to pursue Sunder. Meanwhile, in the lair of the Forever Knights, surgeons break tools trying to get through Rook's proto-armor. Gwen casts a spell to undo her hand restraint. She uses her free hand to undo the restraint on one of her legs. The surgeon notices this and tries to subdue her, but Gwen quickly disposes of him with only her right arm and leg. After freeing herself and removing the dampeners, Gwen frees Rook and Kevin, explaining that the power dampeners negated genetic alien abilities, but not magic. Back in Washington, Harang runs through the streets of DC, just barely avoiding Sunder's attacks. Right when it seems like Harang's luck has run out, Ben rushes in as one of his speed aliens, let's just say Jet Ray, tackling him out of harm's way. After a moment between Ben and Harang, Ben re-enters the fray against Sunder. The two duke it out in the streets of DC, with Ben transforming into different aliens to keep Sunder off his feet, giving us both a look at some new and old aliens. Back with the trio, Gwen, Kevin, and Rook fight their way through the Knight's base, chasing Sir Winslow as he hops into a souped-up jet in a hangar outside the base. Rook sees that they've taken his proto-truck into this hangar, so the three get into it and chase him across the sky. As the proto-truck and the jet engage one another in combat, the Forever Knight jet takes a startling transformation into a large robotic dragon. Rook dodges and evades the dragon's attacks before Kevin realizes that he recognized the alien tech used in this mechanical monster, because he sold some to some guys once a long time ago. He begins pointing out weak spots in the machine, allowing Rook to easily pick it apart, piece by piece, until the head of the dragon comes off, falling into the castle below. Around that same time, Ben manages to finally wear down Sunder before knocking him out. Exhausted, Ben sits on a sidewalk and catches his breath. He sees the destruction and chaos caused in the wake of his battle. Groaning begrudgingly, Ben turns into one of his aliens and goes to start cleaning up the mess. Time passes. It's almost dusk now as Ben finishes fixing the roof of the Capitol when he suddenly gets a call from Gwen. She asks how he's doing, having seen the fiasco over the extranet. Ben bemoans his exhausted state and his chaotic day. Gwen tells Ben that she has something that'll cheer him up. We see Gwen calling Ben from the Forever Knights castle as the plumbers take Sir Winslow and his knights into custody. She tells him that they've been combing through the Forever Knights files and found something very interesting. That night, Harang sits in his home, watching as one of his fellow news anchor reports on the alien attack on American hero Will Harang. As he watches, Ben Tennyson suddenly appears before him. He tells Harang that the Forever Knights orchestrated everything, that Sir Winslow put out the hit on him and orchestrated the riots across the country to keep Team Tennyson and the plumbers occupied. Harang says that's impossible, that him and Winslow are friends, that he's donated to him in his Human First campaign. Ben remarks that he was clearly more valuable to them as a martyr than as a donor. Ben warns Harang that when you operate off of hate, you care more about destroying the people you hate than protecting the people who support you. He tells Harang to maybe reconsider some of his decisions, as he leaves him alone in his house at night. So that's why I want to have a new Ben 10 series. Give it a little bit more weight and give Ben some more responsibilities, as he has to act more and more as a kind of buffer between humans and extraterrestrials, sort of bridging those two worlds. I hope that this idea is something that you would be interested in too. I hope that we get something like this, and I hope that my general pitch was pretty entertaining. I know it's not the most complicated plot in the world, but I think it's pretty good, and I would love to see something like it happen in the new series. But hey, what do you want out of the new Ben 10 series? What aliens do you want to see return? Comment down below and let me know. And hey, while you're at it, like this video and give me a follow. I'm Keenan Savage, and I'll see you guys next time.